going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Sunbelt Syndicate. As we know now, this is the 251st episode of the audio version of the podcast. So it's a pleasure to welcome Texas State into this one, as they probably like first and last showing for Texas State on the Sunbelt show, unfortunately. If you guys want to jump on during the season, we'd love to have you guys back on already. But Coach Danny David Linahan and Austin Munguia?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just going to refer to you as Austin, like I said, throughout the rest of the program, so I don't have to struggle through that again. But it does look like it reads, so I shouldn't really have any trouble with it, you know. What's the background on the last name, actually, while we're on the subject?
It's Hispanic. My dad's Mexican and then my mom's white, so it's a good mix.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So, did you understand a lot of Bad Bunny's performance on the Super Bowl?
I did not.
No?
Understand.
Okay.
I probably understood more than our players did, coming from the professional baseball side of things, and you just got all different kinds, and Bad Bunny is what's playing in the cages all day long. So my wife and I were watching it, and I had flashbacks to batting cages at different stadiums. So Bad Bunny was an interesting take on the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I tried to get myself ready and listen throughout most of the week. And again, just like most, normal Americans, I'm not well versed in Spanish. I know, some phrases and some words. But when someone's singing it or rapping it, as it may be with Bad Bunny, it's like I can't keep up. Like it's too fast. But I enjoy the background music a lot. I like the Latin flair to what he did. And I thought it was a good time. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting aspect, and just wanted to know. So did you speak, Austin, any Spanish, or is it just minimal?
No, not at all. I can understand it a little bit, but when it comes to speaking it, it's not going for me very much.
Interesting. Okay. Is it, and I don't know this, I'm asking because San Marcos, I heard a lot about it. It's beautiful. The campus is amazing. We've seen, what runs through the middle of it, and everyone jumping in after graduation and just having a good time. Is there a heavy Spanish-speaking population in the San Marcos area as well?
I would say so. I think there's a good amount of them, but it's good. It's diversified very well within San Marcos, which keeps it going. So that's what we love about it.
Nice. Very nice. Well, hopefully they're all heading over to the stadium as well. As we know, like the World Baseball Classic, you see the talent and, interest in the Latin America areas when that stuff is happening, and the talent all over Major League Baseball as well. So very interesting aspect to what you guys are seeing down there personally. But what I want to talk about next is the fact that you guys are, unfortunately for us, I didn't want to see you go, but you are in your last year in Sunbelt play. So Coach, I'll start with you on this one. What does that mean to you guys? I mean, obviously you're going to be excited to be in a new league, but what does it mean to leave this baseball league, and maybe how you want to leave it? I would assume, the goal is a conference championship and more before you get out of here.
100%. I think Coach Trout's message from day one to this team is to leave your mark, and it's on every practice plan. It's on every team meeting, is just that constant message of we want to leave our mark on the Sun Belt, and it's been a great league for Texas State. It's going to continue to be a great league when we're not here. And we are excited about the Pac-12, but we definitely want to be where our feet are, and we want to leave the Sun Belt with the championship. And I think the level of play is as high as you're going to find in college baseball, and we're proud to be a part of that. And that includes this year. And I think this group of players, for a guy like Austin, it's his last season of college baseball. So, we want to do right by our players that are in action, and we want to do right by the league too, and continue to elevate the game. I think that this is a league that can have multiple bids. Probably should have had multiple bids last year, and we want to be a part of that as well. So I think we're more fired up for this season in the Sun Belt, and once 2027 comes in the Pac-12, we'll get there when we get there. But I think we owe a lot to the Sun Belt for the years we've had and championships, and we want to bring one more back to San Marcos.
Austin, what are your thoughts on the last year overall for you and in the league for the Bobcats?
Yeah, absolutely. Going on kind of what Coach Double D said right here. Trouty makes it for sure to talk about leaving your mark in the Sun Belt. So that's kind of been our our big patch we've been going towards so far. It's just going out there every day, kind of like you said, being where our feet are. Although we're going into the Pac-12, we take it day by day and worry about when our next game is, which is Friday. So that's as far as we really look ahead at this time of year. But we're real excited. It's great competition. Every team's great. Going to the Pac-12 will be great as well. But being in the Sun Belt's awesome. Get to go to great places. So we'll definitely enjoy it this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know if I'm not mistaken, when we talked to some guys before the season started last year, there were some injuries, throughout the season and maybe before the season started or something like that, if I remember right off the top of my head. But I want to remind some of the viewers and listeners at this point that this is still a Texas State team that beat 5 ranked opponents last year. And 4 of those were away. One was a neutral site, and one of them included, at the time, number 1 Texas A&M. So what does it mean to have those types of victories from last year, know that the pedigree to win and beat these teams is there already, right? Like this isn't something you've had to build up to. You've been doing these successful things. Now it's just maybe being a little bit more consistent throughout, some of the Sun Belt schedule, but you guys are right there on the cusp.
100%. I think it's felt in our locker room. I think the guys that are back for this 26th season got to be in those moments against some of those teams you named, and even some in-conference wins too, in our league. And I think that it's not this so far, concept of we've got to get this thing completely turned around. I think that last year we had moments, and I think, like you said, some key injuries in the wrong way early on that certainly didn't help, but I think it also afforded opportunities to other guys that they stepped up huge and ran with their opportunities. And we learned a lot about them that maybe we wouldn't have had otherwise if we would have been 100% healthy. And I think we learned a lot about the guys in the clubhouse and also the guys on the staff too. It was my first year at Texas State last year. I got with the program at the halfway point around Christmas, and so like you said, we get close to opening day and it feels like we're falling off like flies on the roster, and kind of looking around going, man, is this what it's like every single year in college baseball? And that hasn't been the case, knock on wood, so far as we open this week. But I think we're better for the experiences that we had last year, the ups of it, some of the big midweek wins in state. I think for me, learning the league a little bit and who some of the teams are and the way they play the game, the way they've built their rosters. Like we said, it's good baseball all the way up and down. But I do think the experiences that we gained last year are just going to multiply going into this year.
Nice. Austin, is there something you're seeing on the player side that you think is, obviously different or an aspect that you guys as players are focused on a little bit more going into this year?
Yeah, I think this year we got a really strong culture going into it, which is kind of talked about each and every year, and people kind of go on about it. But I think this year's a little bit of a different feeling. It's more like family than a culture. It's like 40 brothers rather than teammates. So we're going pretty strong into it. And then kind of going off what Double D said, the experiences. We had a core group of guys last year that were able to experience all those ranked games. So like going to A&M and going to Texas, playing the number 1 teams in the nation, it doesn't get much bigger than that. So like we try to talk about it all the time, is we've already been in the biggest situations playing the game of baseball and the most packed out stadium. So, I mean, there's not much more to it now than to go out and play. So it's kind of just helping us keep the culture tight, pushing away the nerves, all that, and just getting to it because we know we've already done it at the highest level.
Yeah, absolutely. As a reminder, like you said, Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, Texas, and then within the conference itself, a ranked Southern Miss and a ranked Troy team that you guys all beat last year. So very impressive. And then one that actually wasn't ranked at the time, which is crazy to think about with how far they got, but you guys also took down a Coastal team at home as well. So, I mean, like you said, the pedigree of winning, there's not much of a jump. It's getting healthier and maybe just consistency. And we saw that last year, right? We saw Troy in this conference win every single series except the last one and still not make the tournament. So it's consistency seems like it's rewarded in college baseball, and hopefully with healthier team all the way around this year, we can see that with the Bobcats and go on a run as they're, unfortunately, like I said, heading out of here. What I would have liked to see is Sunbelt add another Texas team for you guys. A little bit of like a UTSA action, since you guys seem to have a little heat between those two teams, I would have been okay with that. But on that aspect, let's jump over to that part of the out of conference schedule. I mean, you guys have almost exclusively a Texas out of conference slate here, but you do have the team that you're going to see more often starting next year as well with Gonzaga. Is there one that sticks out a little bit more, or somebody you may know on one of these other teams that you guys are looking forward to more, or just one you note personally before this year kicks off?
Yeah, I think it's easy to look at some of the bigger schools in the state there. But like you listed last year, we beat a lot of those schools, and I think we don't want to just play them. We're there to go win the game and beat them. And I think that that's something that if you're in this state, it's happened, and I think we want to make sure that continues to happen. So I don't think we have any of those games circled as that's our Super Bowl. It's not the end goal to just go beat Texas. It's not the end goal to just go beat A&M. We want that to be the expectation around here. And so as we're looking at that, I think it's easy to circle some of those bigger schools. But I think for me in the future and the longevity of this program and this roster and this coaching staff, like I am really excited to see Gonzaga and Washington State at home as a little bit of a Pac-12 preview, just to see the style of play, the caliber of players that they have on their roster, to see what we're up against and calibrate to that a little bit. But I think as you look all the way across the board, there's really good mid-major baseball in the state of Texas too. We went down to UT Rio Grande Valley last year, and man, you think it's a pro environment when you're down there. They're pulling in 6,000 plus. They're top 25 in attendance. So we enjoyed going down there. I think that they like to play Texas State too. That's why people show up. So they're going to return to us this year, and I hope we can return the favor and have a good matchup with them. And I think that Coach Matlock and Coach Trout and Coach Blakely as well have a relationship. So I know they're excited to play against each other and go toe to toe. I think for me, a personal one, you talk about knowing other coaches. I started my career at Abilene Christian. Rick McCarty gave me an opportunity, and I owe him a ton just for my coaching career. Just a way to get in the door. So it'll be the first time playing against him. So I'm a little excited about that one. It's somebody that I root for all the time, and I know we'll be competitive and professional in the two games that we play in our Cleburne tournament there in week 3. So that'll be a fun one.
Austin?
Yeah, going off of kind of what he said, I mean, the first game against Niagara means just as much as it does playing Texas or A&M. I think we expect to win every single game we play, and we just take it one game at a time. I think that gives you the best opportunity to go be successful, is just not looking too far deep into the schedule. I mean, we play big schools like you see up here, Texas A&M, Coastal, Troy, Southern Miss, and it's easy to get ahead of yourself and start looking at the bigger teams and preparing for them. But with our culture this year, it's really taking a step back and staying in the present moment, just being where our feet are. And our feet are where Niagara is this weekend. So I think that's the biggest step we have to take right now.
Absolutely. I think Niagara is going to be very thankful to be heading down to Texas to actually play baseball in a place where it can be played. I would assume they're under inches of snow and ice still where they're at. It's almost interesting that we talked about it sometimes on this show. Like the Big Ten doesn't even field a baseball team for every school in the conference, but there's Niagara in a place I wouldn't traditionally believe would have a baseball program at all. And they're going to come down here and take you guys on the first weekend of the year, which is pretty cool. Again, for them, probably specifically, I know you guys are just looking forward to just getting the ball rolling, but it's interesting to see Niagara on the schedule. I guess that's one of the big tools that you guys are going to have no matter which conference you're in. With being down in Texas, you guys can sometimes host these schools that otherwise wouldn't be able to get rolling as early in the season, maybe even an opportunity occasionally to bring down a Big Ten school who wants to come down and get the season rolling against a good quality opponent. And obviously in a warmer climate that they're definitely going to get the games in instead of having to worry about whether or not cooperating. Coach, is that something, I don't know, how much do you have to do with the schedule? I know certain coaches do have stuff to do with the schedule and others don't touch it, but how involved are you with the schedule making?
Coach Trout handles most of it, but I think as I've got, recalibrated and acclimated to college baseball, we certainly have more conversations about the why behind things. And I think that's something that we all try to keep in mind is it's a big deal to play at home. We love our home field. We love having our crowd. And if we can be a help to some of those northern schools getting out of the weather, we would certainly oblige. Like you said, some of those Big Ten schools, they're just looking to get further south. We hosted Illinois here last year in week 2, and this year Niagara's coming down. And even if you look at Washington State and Gonzaga, I wouldn't want to be in Washington in February or March early on. So I think they're certainly excited to get down here. And I think for us, scheduling wise, we want to go play against the best and play against anybody, but it definitely is a perk to fill the front end of your schedule with some home games to get our crowd involved, to get our crowd learning about our roster, learning about our players. You kind of get that intimate relationship. So I think it's the value in playing as many home games early on as you can so that your following continues to grow as our record, hopefully that W column continues to grow too. And that thing just permeates and multiplies. And now you've got kids in the San Marcos community talking about how they want to be Austin Munguia one day because they got to see him play 20 games at home early in the season versus us having to go coast to coast, and nobody really knows who our players are unless they're tuned in to ESPN and social media. So huge deal for us to play at home.
Yeah. Austin, I want you to talk on that point specifically. We've had a number of other players and coaches talk about going to play at Texas State and the environment, one, but also just the stadium. Like it's one that always is at the top of the list about quality of stadium, the aspects of the stadium that they like. So talk to us a little bit about what it's like to play in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty sweet. I mean, you got everything you can ask for. Fans, big fan base, big stands all around. Dugouts are close to home plate. Feels like everything's on top of you. Nice field, beautiful turf. We just got a brand new scoreboard, all digital out in right field. Very nice, big, upgrade the speaker systems. So we're all heading in the right direction. And I mean, nothing gets better than playing in Bobcat Ballpark. I mean, everything's phenomenal. We get a good crowd. We get a good attendance when we play, like you said, the bigger schools. I mean, it's like the whole city's there. You can't even see in outfield, infield, everything. You can't even talk to the pitcher from home plate. So you're kind of on your own island in those senses. But man, it's a blast getting out there, getting to play under the lights in front of all the students, athletes, families, everybody. So, I mean, it's a blessing to be able to play there.
That's awesome. So you spoke about the new speaker system. I'm going to stay with you for a second here. What is the speaker system going to be playing as you come up to the plate? What's the walkout song going to be here?
It'll be Sugar Sugar by Baby Ray.
Okay.
Nice. Would not have been on my bingo card.
I would not have thought that might be it, but I like that one. Austin, what about some of the other guys? Like you got some jokesters who are going to come out with something crazier than that, or most guys pretty like serious. It's a walkout song to get them in the mood to do well at the plate type of situation.
Yeah, I think everyone's different. People do some for personal reasons, some do it to get locked in, some do it because it's their favorite song. But like one of the better traditions we have here at Texas State is us seniors get to pick our freshman walkout songs and our freshman pitching songs. Nice. So they get to come out and enjoy something that they probably wouldn't get to choose to walk out on Friday night or Saturday day, going out there and playing in front of a bunch of people. But, it keeps them loose, keeps them relaxed, keeps them having fun at a young age, which is always good in a high intense environment. So we love having the freshmen around. They're very professional, very great this year. But yeah, I would say everyone kind of has their own specific reason to picking what they do, but everyone's got a good one this year.
Nice. I like that tradition. I haven't heard that one. I mean, maybe I'm just too far away from baseball and that a number of other things are doing that, but I haven't heard that. So that's a cool one there. Coach, yeah. What are your thoughts on what you're hearing from these guys? Is this a playlist that, you'd be okay with, or is some of this stuff just off the wall and crazy? You wouldn't listen to it if you were out on your own?
Some of it's questionable. I do think the freshman tradition is a good one. We've had historically some freshmen that play quite a bit for us and are impact players, and I think we're going to see that early in the season this year. So I haven't got to hear all of the freshman songs yet. I'm just hoping that one of them's not coming in to close out a game in a big spot to Goofy Goober Rock off the SpongeBob album or something. That's my hope as a coach. But if that's the worst thing we have going for us on the playlist, that's probably an okay problem. I would just take that we're in a situation to close the game out, and we'll get over the audio side of things.
Right. Yeah. Like just hope that the crowd is so loud that it doesn't matter what's being played, right? Like that's the atmosphere you want at that moment. So yeah, that would be kind of funny though. I know I touched on this in another show, but the guy at UNC, I don't know if you know this, he came out to the Lion King, and then people started putting their hands up as if they're holding Simba last year. That's one that stuck out to me. He's like, okay, that's pretty creative, I guess. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we've got on the around the Sunbelt in general, I guess, this year. And speaking of that, we'll jump over to the in-conference slate at this point. You guys start off with ULM, but you've got both Louisiana schools, which are probably the closest schools for you guys as far as the locations are concerned. But you've also got one heck of a gauntlet here in the last season in the Sunbelt, because you've got Troy, a team who just missed out. You've got the Southern Miss team, who was in the postseason last year, Coastal Carolina team, who made it all the way to the national championship. And then you've got some teams that have been on the rise a little bit. South Alabama has a historic history as far as baseball is concerned. A-State and Marshall both on the come up, it seems. Is there one that's sticking out to you guys the most, be it competition on the field, or you're looking forward to traveling to that location specifically for some other reason? Coach, let's start with you on that one.
Sure. I mean, when you first look at that thing, one might think, man, the Sun Belt really gave us a sure heck of a way out of the league, getting some of those teams back to back on the road and all that. But I think no matter how you chalk up the Sun Belt slate, it's gonna have elements of that, whether you're playing our schedule or playing somebody else's schedule. But I think with what we've got this year, I haven't got to see everywhere in the league. I've heard good things of different spots. I think with what Ark State's got going on with some of their renovations, excited to see that. I've never been to Coastal or Southern Miss. I've never been to Georgia State. I think I'm excited for the home series with Louisiana, just given the proximity. We played them well last year at their place. I think that it's usually a good draw when the Cajuns are playing the Bobcats, no matter the sport. And yeah, I think like you said, just whoever you're playing in the league, it's going to be fun, and we got a good matchup for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Austin, what are your thoughts on your opponents within conference play this year?
Yeah, I mean, every team is pretty good from what we saw last year. Can't overlook anybody. Just got to take it game by game. We definitely have a good stretch right there with Troy, Southern Miss, and Coastal, all 3 in a row. But I mean, the Bobcats love competition. That's all what we're all about. We like playing tougher opponents because we like to see the best of ourselves. But other than that, I mean, it's just going by the year, taking it game by game. But I would say if I like to play at one place, it'd be Coastal. Haven't got to see their field yet and heard good things about it, so excited to play there.
Yeah, that's one of the few places that I've been to. I got to go against them up against Clemson last year. It was a pretty good environment. Obviously, Clemson brought a good amount of fans, but I think you will be impressed by that ballpark. Obviously, expect it to be full and rowdy, as they've had a pretty good run here this past year. Is there one, Austin, that sticks out as like Texas State's rival? I know that's one of the reasons that the Pac-12 came into fruition, right? I know fan bases said like we don't have that one team, like we have it with UTSA, we have it with a couple other teams in Texas, but they're not in our conference. Coach did mention the Cajuns, and that does seem like kind of the obvious one. But is there another one that just because of the competition on the field over the last few years that kind of sticks out to you?
Yeah, I think like Double D said, the Cajuns is probably like our main one that we'd go for. But I'd say Troy. Troy's pretty scrappy team. We're pretty gritty as well. So when we're both on the field together, it's at a super high compete, which I think just brings a lot of energy to the field. So we had a good series against them last year, pretty intense. So I think coming back this year, it's going to be very good.
Nice. Coach, is there any other team that sticks out like close to the Cajuns, or is it just kind of from a coaching aspect? I'm sure it's a little different, but any other one that you always feel like these guys have a good matchup with you?
Yeah, I think the more we've looked at this graphic, and even Austin's talked about it, my competitive juices get flowing. Thinking back to last year, not out of disrespect for anybody, but I think just the nature of the Sun Belt, you play so many close games, and if you play well, you get a good chance to win, and if you don't play well, you get a pretty good chance to lose. So I think looking back at our previous series in 25, we didn't come up on the right side of things at Troy, but I think it's a few pitches away either way, and you're talking about winning the series or potentially taking three, and I'm sure they feel the exact same way. And with Coastal, some tight games at our place, a few pitches make or break, a game in there which makes the series, and I'm sure they feel the exact same way. So I'm just looking at it, thinking back to moments, to swings. I remember Austin had one at Troy late in extra innings on Friday night that was, I'm talking, 4 inches foul, and that's maybe the difference in us winning the series. So I think the margins are just so slim, and I don't know if it's necessarily we want to beat anybody more than the other. I think you have to pony up every single week in the Sun Belt. Otherwise, like I said, you got a good chance to lose. So, we just we gotta bring it every single week.
Absolutely. Definitely agree with that. We often say that we don't consider the Sun Belt to be a mid-major baseball conference. You can label it that for basketball and talk about other stuff for football, but for baseball, we feel like we've got some of the best teams in the entire country, and the moniker just doesn't fit quite the same here as it does for some of the other sports. And it is what it is. We know why we've got the label, but it's fun to disprove it, and hopefully Texas State can continue to do that. Coach, you spent some time at the major league level as a coach as well. So I want to see, a little bit of story time from that, and just tell us what it was like being up there at the Minnesota Twins for a little while.
Sure, I'm sure our players get tired of hearing about it, but I was very blessed to be at that level and be the youngest and probably least baseball intelligent guy in a lot of rooms, and I mean that in a positive way because I got to learn a lot, and I was a blank canvas, and took in way more than I probably gave. But I think it really starts with just the journey in coaching, and like I said earlier, Abilene Christian gave me that start as a player development coach. Once that started to become a thing, 2018, 2019, I had just finished my playing career because I was a very average player that knew I wasn't going to play pro ball, and I knew I wanted to coach, and I didn't have any contacts. I don't come from a family of coaches. Um, just wanted to get in the door. And Rick McCarty was nice enough to take a chance on a kid with no experience and let me do the operations job and all the laundry and set up the field and the stuff that nobody else wanted to do. And I loved it. I was on fire for it. I wanted to be a college coach with every fiber of who I was at that point in time. And as we know, that year was the 19 fall and the 20 spring. So it ended up being the COVID shortened season. And when you're a volunteer type coach and everybody else is getting furloughed, I didn't have anything to furlough. I wish I could have got furloughed. But I was trying to, do hitting lessons at night and things like that to get by, and was honestly trying to figure out, like, man, can I do this coaching thing if I can't earn a living? And at that time, just stayed on the phone. And one of my good friends that I played with in college had been an intern with the Los Angeles Dodgers on the minor league side. And I would stay up with him all night just talking ball because they were the only ones playing at the alt site. And I actually drove out to just go watch them practice at the alt site. And, by happenstance, ran into some front office personnel there with the Dodgers, had some baseball conversations. They asked me to just keep showing up. And before I knew it, I had a role in player development with them as just an assistant, kind of around the horn, hitting, pitching, defense. And that to me was like a master's degree in just baseball. Getting to learn how they operate on the business front, on the scouting front, on the development front, the way they interact with players, the way the coaches interact with each other, the level of conversations, and just how curious that building is, I think stuck with me forever. And I couldn't have been like more grateful to be in that place in that time. And I know they're coming off a World Series now, but I think the way that they've been operating for a long time, there is a little bit of a secret sauce over there, and it's just the day-to-day interactions that they have. And so I was trying to find my way through the professional coaching ranks there, really just to kind of earn a living and also just obtain as much knowledge as I could about the game. And from there, got hired on full time in my first full time job where I had benefits and all that fun stuff with the Cleveland Guardians as a hitting coach. So at that point, it was like, all right, you're in the pro space, but you've got to lean into something. Like, what's your skill set? And for me, I had been around some really good hitting minds with the Dodgers. I think they're at the peak of the sport when it comes to hitting in particular with what they teach in bat path and approach. And I think you see it on the major league level, but also the way they develop minor leaguers. And so I took a lot of what I learned there and got to go apply it in this full-time job in Cleveland with players from the Dominican complex as international signees all the way to the big leagues. And we had a pretty good run there in the 2022 season of young guys that were impacting at the major league level. And that was super satisfying to me. I love that role. I wasn't really looking to do anything different, to be quite honest with you. But my wife and I got married in that off season after the 2022 year, and we're on our honeymoon and we're coming back. And one of my closest contacts when I was with the Dodgers, David Popkins, who actually just got Coach of the Year for the Toronto Blue Jays. He was with the Twins at the time, and he was the major league hitting coach. And he called and he said, "Hey, I got a role for you, assistant hitting coach in the big leagues. What do you think?" And I think every guy that plays is on that track to get to the show one day. And when you're on the pro side as a coach, it's kind of the same thing. Is you're waiting for that call to the big leagues, and that was mine from somebody I really trusted and respected, and I think the world of. I think he's one of the brightest hitting minds. So it was a no-brainer to join him in Minnesota, and we had a good 2 year stretch there. My first season was 2023. We won the AL Central. We won our first postseason series. It was 23 years for that franchise before they had won in the postseason. So we got to bring a lot of cool things to that city, and we had a phenomenal crop of players. Like I said, I probably learned more from them than they took from me. But guys that have won Gold Gloves, Platinum Gloves, Silver Sluggers, Cy Young pitchers. I mean, you could go up and down on those players and their careers. But I think that when I walked in that door, I was 25 at the time, and I'd kind of built this niche as a hitting guy that game plans, and that's what we did. We tried to do more with less in Minnesota, and we were able to do it in 23. And yeah, I've got off track a little bit here from your original question on
No,
just
that's good. I love it.
what the major leagues is like. But I think, when I'm telling our players now, I'm so thankful that I got there when I got there, because I do think that some people spend an entire career trying to get to the big leagues. And, for a lack of better terms, I might have skipped a few steps, or just got there, fairly quickly. And I learned a lot in a short amount of time. And what I fell in love with at the major league level that's different from development is it's all about how do you put that W in the win column every single night, no matter if guys are banged up, no matter if you're playing the best team in the division or the worst team in the division, all 162 count. And you've got to do everything you can for the organization, for the city, to just go throw up a W that night. And that's the feeling that I get in college baseball every single game, because even if you strip down Major League Baseball, when you're playing in June, it's different than the feeling you have in October. When we played the Astros in the ALDS, like the buzz around that stadium is different than it is in June when you're playing in another, you know, dead ballpark. Where in college, when we go play Niagara on Friday night, like we might look back in our last weekend of conference and think, dang, we needed that game. Maybe it was from an RPI standpoint, maybe it was from a ranking standpoint, seeding in our own tournament. I just think you manage the game differently in college, and I'm in love with that competitive aspect, and that's what fires me up about college. That's similar to the big leagues.
Yeah, and like you said, definitely important here in the Sun Belt was how meaningful every single game is, because they might have been one game away, right? Whether it be a tournament game or a game early in the season to complete a sweep against somebody. That's how important it is. But the good part is, like you said before too, this conference is so good that, you know, a couple slip-ups outside of conference, because you've challenged yourself there, you can make up some ground because you have such a gauntlet within the conference as well. So, you know, nothing's really over here. To be really interesting to see how this season shapes out, not just for you guys, just across the Sun Belt landscape in general, because there's just so much talent in this league. No one's going to go undefeated, right? So it's just going to be really interesting to see at the end where people end up with how their season has gone. Also want to jump back in with you. You've just had Coach go and explain all this coaching aspects and how he's gotten to where he is now. Is coaching in the future for you, do you think?
I don't know. I kind of just where my feet are right now. Just looking forward to getting after it on the field. But I mean, it's not an option I'd rule out ever. So I mean, if it happens to come like it does, then a possibility for sure. Definitely an opportunity to see it in the future. But just trying to be where my feet are right now and enjoy the moment.
I like that you're not thinking ahead. What you want to do is just focus on the here and now, which is perfect for guys in college. Just focus on it and have fun with it, because I feel like could have been in college twice as long and, enjoyed it just as much if I paid attention to it that way, and done it a little bit differently. Let's see where I want to go here now. I guess I want to jump into the Winter Olympic question that I have. It's obviously going on now. I'm maybe you guys are taking it in a little bit before the season starts. I'm sure once Friday gets going, you guys are pretty much not going to be able to pay attention to this much. I don't know how much you guys have ever played or participated in any of these sports or disciplines, maybe as they're called in some aspects, like figure skating. I guess I don't know if I'd call figure skating a sport, but anytime you get judges involved, I feel like it's a little hard to call that a sport. Anyways, if there is one that you would participate in or would like to try, which one would you pick and why? I guess, Austin, we'll start with you on this one.
I can't wait to hear this.
I'd probably go with one of the skiing ones, because every year from when I was 3 to 17, we were always up in Colorado skiing, going on different mountains and stuff. So I think looking at what's going on the board between that and Nordic combined and hockey and skeleton, I think I'd probably choose one of the skiing options. Suits it a little bit better.
Okay. So are you doing like the cross country type skiing, or are you going downhill fast in a race type atmosphere?
I'd feel more of the downhill, get into a race, just let it eat from there.
Nice. I like it. I figure a competitive guy with the baseball aspect's got to have that adrenaline rush that cross country skiing probably just can't bring you. So that does make sense there. Coach, which one would you be doing? If you've done one of these, let me know.
Man, I've never done any of these competitive skiing competitions, but I do love to snow ski. I was actually looking with my wife last night at taking a trip somewhere, not now as we're in season, but next year, potentially over the winter break. So we love to snow ski. But I think for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to have to go with hockey. I've never played hockey. I've coached some hockey players in baseball, and they were some of my favorite guys to coach. I do think, having spent a few years in Minnesota, the way high school football is in Texas is like how high school hockey is in Minnesota. It's just different, and the draw to it. I would go to some wild games with players when we were there. I like the energy of it. I also just like the toughness that it brings. I do think where some other sports are different, like there's nowhere to hide on the ice. So I like that aspect of hockey. In basketball, you can be a three-point shooter and kind of, go around the three-point line and not go crash the boards and get rebounds. In football, you can stay on the perimeter. Even baseball, you can be a DH or you can be a pitcher only. But in hockey, you got to put the skates on. You got to post every night. You got to go hit somebody. Even if you're a goalie, you got pucks coming 120 at you. So, yeah, I would like to just go test the competitive spirit in hockey and try to go post every night.
I like that answer a lot. People are probably sick of hearing me talk about it, but I'm a hockey guy myself, so I love the fact that you chose hockey. I know, the Four Nations was great because we got some fighting right off the puck drop. I don't think we'll see that in the Olympics because you do get kicked out for those actions at this junction because it's all about sportsmanship. But maybe we'll see some fisticuffs when Canada and USA meet up at some point. But yeah, I'm glad to get all this started. It seems like all the sports are happening all at once, right? We got the Super Bowl leading into college baseball, leading into the Winter Olympics. It's just like everything's still going on all at one time. It's an exciting time for sports, especially for you guys, because you are literally about to hit the mound and get this season kicked off. One last thing that Marv likes to ask, so I'll ask it in his place tonight. got some young kids, specifically his, that also listen to this show. And he likes to ask if there was one thing that you could go back in time and tell yourself at, the 10, 11, 12-year-old age that would help you in maybe specifically baseball, but just sports in general. What would that one phrase or one thing to focus on be? I'm going to start with Coach because I feel like he's going to have that answer ready. And Austin, I'll give you a second to think about it.
Sure, I love that question. And it's something that when we're addressing our team, we try to keep that at the forefront often. Like, how did you get here? Who are the people that helped you get here? What were the thought processes that you had? And I think when I'm looking back at my career as a player and even now as a coach, I think the most valuable lessons learned were when I gave myself the opportunity to learn. And a lot of time that's watching the game, getting close to it, talking about it, having people to look up to. I think surrounding yourself with, number one, like-minded people with what you like to do, but two, people that have maybe more juice than you have at that point in time that you can learn from. I think is super valuable. I go back to playing in the driveway, and I would throw the ball off the wall and drive my parents crazy because it would rattle the whole house. Not because I had velocity, just because it was hard ball, little house. And I'd sit in the driveway and pretend I was Derek Jeter, or pretend I was um, Robinson Cano, and you put yourself in those situations in your mind, and you're just imagining, bases loaded, 2 outs in the World Series. Like, I got to get a hit right here. I'm standing at shortstop and I got to make a play. Hopefully you've had those thoughts, Austin, as you're behind the dish, having to go throw Dave Roberts out to go to the World Series, win the World Series. But yeah, I think the imagination's powerful, and don't limit it. Don't put limitations on yourself. You can do what you believe you can do. So as soon as you tell yourself you can't, you probably can't. So I think dream big, have something to look towards. Don't put limits on it. Continue to see it first before you see it in real life.
Austin, good luck
Yeah,
following
honestly,
that, by the way.
tough follow up on that one. Honestly, I'd probably say two. And my first one would be like just learning more, like when you're younger, that failure's more part of the game than you realize. And just understanding that instead of like losing, you can learn always. But as a kid, you don't really understand that until you get a little bit older, that failure is a part of the game. Because when you're a kid, you're just trying to hit 600, hit a home run every at bat. And when you get out, it's always a big problem. But I think once you start to understand and realize how the game of baseball works, like that starts to make things a lot easier. And I wish that's something like I was able to understand again. And then the other one I would say is just like understanding your why, like why you go out there every day and do what you do, and how you go about your business, and how consistent you stay in what you're doing. And honestly, the favorite thing I've ever heard in my whole baseball career happened about a week ago. I'm not going to put anyone's personal information, but someone lost someone on in their life about a week ago, and they said, always try to prove the people that support you right. Don't try to prove everyone wrong. So don't try to prove everyone wrong. Try to prove the people right that support you. And honestly, I think that hits you in a different place, because as you're playing and you're growing up, you're always trying to, the kids that are talking trash and doing all this, you're always trying to prove them wrong, rather than having your family members and all your coaches and all your teammates who's always had your back and always support you, go out there and prove those guys right. So I think that's something that, I mean, in my last year of baseball, as you said, you're always learning from when you're a kid till now. I'd say, yeah, that's probably the two things that I wish I knew when I was younger.
I said that was a tough follow. Maybe not with that last answer, man. That was fantastic. I love that and the way you phrased it, because you're right. I mean, I got a kid who doesn't play baseball currently. He actually plays hockey. But that's something I might tell him tomorrow, or the next time it becomes an aspect. Like, don't worry about proving those kids wrong. Go prove it for everybody that does love you and support you no matter what. So this has been great, guys. Again, I'm disappointed that Texas State is leaving. I understand it, and I hope the best for them moving forward. But we got a whole season left with you, and we're going to enjoy that first. The very last thing I'll ask is that you guys share some socials, because people that listen to this may want to start following you as well, or Coach, maybe they're going to try and slide in there and say, hey, I want to play for you. So Austin, we'll start with you, and Coach will end with you on your social tags so people can find you.
Yeah, I mean, the Instagram's just Austin Munguia, Mungoia, and then the Twitter's just flipped, Munguia Austin. So, I mean, either of those, you can feel free to message me or contact me or whatever need be.
Yeah, I think this may or may not be true. So sorry, Austin, if it's not. But Austin was a new player in our program last year. He came from the University of New Mexico. He was in junior college before that. He might have DM'd Coach Blakely, who's the recruiting coordinator at the time. So there is power to social media. And I think he went from, maybe even DMing Coach Blakely to the starting catcher last year, which is awesome. So yeah, definitely encourage people to be strong with it. But for me, it's at DD Linahan on Twitter, Instagram, and then Texas State Baseball. Always pumping content there and having fun with some river graphics to everyone's disposal.
Yeah, you guys, your team that does baseball, but just in general, the school, they put out some really good stuff. And especially when you guys had those big wins last year on the baseball aspect, some of the clips that people were able to get from those games of the celebration and the crowd and everything was phenomenal stuff. So I hope to continue seeing a lot of that on social media this year, and also enjoy the Bobcats final season. Again, little tear there, final season in the Sun Belt, but hopefully you guys go out swinging, and love to see you in Omaha to end it all and go on a run to take that with you on to the next step. And Austin, to have you go out on top, man, that would be awesome. So thank you guys very much for joining us tonight, and best of luck as we get the season rolling on Friday.
Thank you, Dominick, for all you guys do for the Sun Belt, for college baseball. You guys are huge in pushing the brand of our game forward. So appreciate all that you guys do for us.
Absolutely. Appreciate you a ton having us on here and representing Texas State baseball. Thank you. Continue doing what you're doing. You're doing a good job at it.
Appreciate it, guys. See you later.